busted drill bit. Hi, this is Robert from Giant Van. So today we're going to install our Webasto heater. Most people are installing it under the seat, but we have the factory swivels, so I think there's probably not enough room in there to do that. So we're going to install it right here. The only other person I've seen install it there is Ankeny Vans, and so I've referenced some of his video and working us all out. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut away the wood and the insulation here, just so that we can have it setting on the van floor rather than on the wood. What I'm worried about is if I cut a big hole and it's sitting on top of the wood, any water that splashes, like from rain or road grime, would come up into the wood and basically seep in. I don't want any of that, so we're going to mount it down on the metal of the van. Okay, so we're trying to determine how much of this to cut away for the Webasto. I probably want to keep it at a minimum, and so I drilled down in here through the van floor, and then I just took some metal wire, stuck it down through there to see where it was on the bottom of the van. I'm basically going to just run my track saw along here to cut down as much as I can of the wood, and I'm going to cut all the wood and most of the insulation, and then we'll take that out and then see where we are from there. And also I need to take out some of this part because I'm going to have a vent coming out and directing it out into the cabin. So because this is going to be down inside the wood, this wouldn't come out without a gap of some kind. So I'm just basically going to cut out probably about this much back to here, so about there. Okay, so I got my hole cut for the Webasto. I marked using the plate. I marked where I think it should go, and so it's going to kind of sit like right about there. There's a little bit of room on each side, all four corners, and then I have some room for the ducting to kind of turn up in here without being kinked by the wood. And so if you look at where I drew the circles for the plate, it falls between these two dimples right here. So you have two short ones and two big ones. That'll tell you underneath the van where it's going to go. But I'm going to put my wire through here so I can identify where that hole is and see it. I can show you where those dimples are underneath. So right here, there's the dimple, and then there's another one right over here. This is where our wire is coming through right here. So it's going to get installed right in here, so I need to cut out this little spot. And I kind of want to stay shy of this part here. Okay, just further along, I took this black piece here and I basically traced out its circumference, and then I also took the black plate, the mounting plate, and I marked where those screw holes are. So as long as my cut exceeds these points here, these are for the screws, and this outer edge here for the pipes, I should be good. So you don't need to create a huge hole, just something big enough for those to fit through there. Okay, so I've drawn my square just outside of both of these circles and outside the screw holes, and then I'm just taking a center punch, putting it right on the corner there, and that creates a little divot so that when I put my drill bit in there, it's not going to wander. Okay, so we got our hole cut. One thing that I did is I drilled 4 holes. I think the battery died. I drilled 4 holes here for the jigsaw to fit in, and then my wife got underneath and I extended the jigsaw as far down as it could so that she could see if it was going to touch any of this stuff before we started cutting. And we did each hole. So I put it in here, checked it, put it in here, checked it, went across, did that cut, did this cut, did this cut, checking it each time. And that's our hole. Okay, so I filed all around here. I just used my finger to see if there's like any rough edges. Just kind of go across it like that. Don't do it like this. And it feels good. So now I'm just going to spray paint it. Okay, so to putting it down into the van, I'm using these self-tapping hex head screws. Alright, so we got the Webasto in. Now I'm attaching stuff through the bottom. So the way we did it, we put the plate in first and then just set the unit inside and then started doing everything from the bottom. I mean, it seems harder that way, but it's actually not too bad. You can reach in there and get in there. Just have to orient all the clamps the right way. Yeah, the 4 bolts holding it to the plate were easy. The little fuel line, that was a little more tricky, but I just found a small socket. I think it was 9/32, and that fit right over the clamp, and that locked it in pretty good. And then the big fuel line, that one was the 10 millimeters nut, and so just pushing it up there, getting an orientation so you can get a ratchet on it, that's the trickiest part. But once you find it, it works okay.
And what's that?
This is the air filter, air intake air filter. So this clamp, this hose clamp goes around here. This one goes around. This one goes around the nozzle coming out of the unit. This is just to clamp it up somewhere to hold it up, and then same with this. I think you just pop this into a hole and it just clips around this unit, I believe. Okay, I wanted to show what I got going on down here. So I did it from below because I think it was better to drive the plate in to make a nice flat plate and then stick it in and come in. It's not too bad to get in here. I mean, I can come around through here. This is the little clamp on here is a 9/32 hex head, so you can just basically run through this way. And I I used a ratchet, come through up here. And then this one is a 10 millimeter, so I did the same thing and just orient it so that it's going that way, and then you can get it in. And then for the black hose, I did it over on this side, coming this way. One thing that's a little concerning to me is how close this is to that plastic piece there. I might have to devise up some kind of heat shield to make sure that that doesn't melt that piece. And then here's my connector for the fuel pump. I still have to mount the fuel pump. So this is the fuel pump. You can see the little arrow there is telling you which way fuel is coming. So it's coming from into this port and out towards the Webasto. So when you're under the van, if in case you forget, this is also pointing towards the Webasto. This is your electrical hookup. So just make sure that that side is pointing towards your Webasto. Okay, so now I have to access the fuel port, and it's just these 3 screws here. For this back one here, just get a small little stubby screwdriver, and that fits right in there. This is a nice little Milwaukee one that has a ratchet built into it, which is nice for tight spots. So looking at the between the seats where you want your fuel line to run is back. Follow this here in the back, and you can see it. I don't know if you can see it with the video or not, but it bends down, and there's an access area down there that you can get all the way to the through. So to get this cap off of the fuel port that you need to install, there's two little tabs here. You just click in, and then that pops back like that. And then when you push the new one on, it basically just forces that in like that. That's what clamps it. So just get your two fingers around those, push those in. That will pop forward, and you can pop it right off. Okay, so looking from the front of the van, here's the fuel tank. You can see where the hose comes down through. Okay, so here I have my pump with the two hoses that they give for each side of it, and then your 1/8" hose, this stuff, goes in through each of these. One thing, when I was first looking at this, I was like, why are they going from big to small to big to small to big to small, and couldn't you just use this size the whole way? And it turns out no, you can't, because it's not enough pressure will build, and so it's not really going big to small, because this has to be pushed up all the way till it touches that nipple. This is basically just holding it in place, and so when you clamp it, it's basically this 1/8 throughout the whole fuel system until you get up to your fuel tank. Then it switches over. Okay, so I got the pump mounted. So just for reference, this is where the Webasto is installed. Come up to this beam, and then right there is the pump. And like I said, this little electrical piece here points towards your Webasto. So like, see how this is all covered up and you can't necessarily see it. So when you get down here and you get all turned around, it's hard to tell. But if you just go by that, going towards your Webasto, you'll be good. So putting on the hose clamp here, you can see I got plenty of room in here for a small 9/32 socket, and I could even put a ratchet on the end of it. But right now I'm just tightening this up. Put the ratchet on. Make sure I'm going the right way. It's not really conducive to filming. So like I said before, you want to make sure that this is pushed up as far as it can go so that it's touching the other part. And then I'll just move this so it's kind of out of the way of the exhaust pipe here. Okay, so now I have to do the wiring harness that goes to the pump. So this comes from the Webasto, connects on the other end, and then this goes into the actual pump. So I have to cut this to length, strip the wires, put the other connector on, and it should be good to go. So I've put these little silicone sleeves on first before you strip the wires. And I just have a small section stripped away. And I think the way it's supposed to go is the front one clamps around the wire and the back one around the insulation. So I think you just need it just long enough to get into that middle crimp there, and then this crimp goes around the insulation. I got my wire in, and you just basically push them in until they click. I'm getting ready to install the plug, that this back panel here goes against this piece here. So basically you just fish it down inside there until this little tab here goes underneath that. So just keep pushing until it goes in, and that's it. And then you can route it out whichever side you want. So I'm coming out this side, and there's a little lip here that goes inside that groove, and it would be this groove if you were doing that side, and then it just plugs down in like that. Okay, and so the other side of this little thing here that's in the notch is for that. So this goes right over top of that. This just pushes down in there, and it should be tight. Okay, so I bought this heat shield stuff off of Amazon. I cut it to length so that it would fit around the pipe. And I'm going to put this around the exhaust port just because I want some extra security that it's not going to melt the plastic of the parts down there. And I also bought some metal zip ties, so they're designed for high heat applications. I'll put a link down below for the product. Okay, so here you can see I added the insulation on here. It does touch against that. I'm not sure if that's going to make it a problem or not, but this is it's a fabric filled with some high resistant heat fabric insulation, and then it has a metal outer part, and then I've clipped these metal zip ties around it to hold it. I'm going to mount it right here. I put in a 5/16 plus nut. I still have to attach the muffler, and so that'll give me a good attachment point, and then I'll bring it all the way out over to here outside the van. Generally you want it to be sloping downward the whole time, so from up there down to here, so that it continues to flow. If you have a bend like here where my unit is going up higher, then right here you're supposed to put a little tiny hole in the hose so that water can drain out of it. So one other thing, I was noticing in the install manual it said to mount this air intake and the exhaust not in the direction of travel of the vehicle. So right now this is the front of my vehicle, so I have it going sideways, and that's to prevent dust and grime from getting down into the filter itself. The exhaust, it's going to kind of be out at an angle. I think that's just the way it's got to be. And then I think you're supposed to turn the exhaust downward so that it flows out. Okay, so I think I have it all fully installed. Right now I'm just using the rheostat version. You can use the multi-controller, but you need to buy a separate harness that attaches to this maintenance plug. With the kit that I bought anyway. I've seen that Webasto has a new harness that will allow you to connect either one. But for this kit that I bought off Amazon, it's you either buy the one with the multi-controller already in it, or you have to buy an extension cable and then add your multi-controller. Okay, so I got it all hooked up. I just hooked it temporarily to the battery, and I had to start it like 3 times, and then now it's blowing heat, so it seems to be working good. Okay, I just wanted to show what I have going on here. So this is where it's coming down. I have this wrapped. I have my muffler here. It's tied into a 5/16 plus nut. Comes back around here, and I was going to cross over this rubbery stuff, so I put another block on there. That comes out and dips down right here. I may put something in, maybe one of those metal ties to kind of hold this up against the that metal part there. So it's all installed, it's all working.